Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring. And with me today, I have a very special guest. He is one half of one of the most decorated and legendary tag teams in the history of professional wrestling. He has been a champion everywhere he's been, along with his partner, Bubba Ray. Talking about WWE, ECW, TNA, Japan. He's been everywhere around the world and back. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only D-Von Dudley. Welcome, D-Von, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Let's talk about, your upbringing. You're from New York. Did some research about your career and your upbringing. Tell me about, life growing up.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn Hospital, a very long time ago. And I basically grew up watching wrestling in the 70s. Turned on the TV one day at a family function and saw I think it was the Mad Superstar, Billy, who also played Axe from Demolition. Saw him, and then I saw Big John Studd and Bob Backlund. I knew nothing about pro wrestling. I just knew that Big John Studd said what he was going to do to Bob Backlund, and it scared me. And so I remember my grandmother coming in and saying, "Come on, we're leaving. We're going home." And I said, "Well, Grandma," I said, "you got to see this guy. This big man is going to beat up this little man," and blah, blah, blah. She turned around and looked at the TV. She goes, "Oh boy, that's wrestling. That's that fake stuff. Turn that thing off. Come on, we're leaving." And I was so intrigued that I remember not having knowledge of time and networks at that time, because again, I was too busy in my own little world with whatever was it cartoons I was into. I didn't really realize the time and the day that wrestling came on. And so I basically went around the time I thought it was coming on. I kept turning on the different channels looking for it, never saw it, until one day I got lucky and happened to see it. And then, of course, got knowledge of time and network and what channel it came on. And when I grew up, it was Channel 9, WOR something, I forgot. Mm-hmm. And it came midnight, right before the racetrack. OTV, and I just remember watching it from there. The same person, my grandmother, who told me, "Boy, turn that thing off, it's fake, don't worry about it, it's not real," she was hollering and jumping up and down more than I was watching it at that point in time. So she became a really, really big wrestling fan. She was a big fan of Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas. She despised Piper. As everybody did back in the day, who weren't smart to the business, which that just goes to show you that Piper was doing his job. At the time, this is when Uncle Elmer and Hillbilly Jim was on top, things like that. And of course, Hogan came in the picture after Rocky III. So I grew up watching wrestling at a very, very young age. Again, 1977, and I fell in love with it. The night Hogan lost the belt the night that Andre beat him and the switch happened with the fake referee with Earl Hebner.
Yep.
At that point, I was so angry about what happened. I always said, I'm going to go after the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Andre the Giant for what they did to my hero, Hulk Hogan. And I said, I'm going to get into pro wrestling. And sure enough, I did that. Now, again, later on, I got a little smart to the business and realized what pro wrestling was. And so I wasn't that crazy enough to even try to go to Andre, or Mr. DiBiase, which is what I call him. Everybody else calls him Ted DiBiase. Every time I see him, I go, Mr. DiBiase, out of respect. And, I always told DiBiase how I felt about him growing up, and he laughs all the time. I'm sure Andre would probably feel the same way if I told him But that's what got me into pro wrestling. And originally, I was supposed to play football.
Really?
I had a 4-year scholarship to Florida A&M, and I passed it up because I didn't want to play anymore, and I got tired and weary of it. And it was a lot of politics. Been with the high school that I was in, it was kind of like considered like a Division I high school, and so much drama had incurred because my mother got remarried, and we moved to a place called New Rochelle, New York, which is kind of like upstate New York in a way. It's about an hour away from New York City, about 20 minutes from the Bronx. So it was like right on the cusp of everything.
Sure.
And I just remember going there and just not enjoying it at all and wanted to quit. And that's what again, fell in love with wrestling even more. And that's what I was going to do.
Well, it's interesting. Like a lot of, really great wrestlers, they got their start playing football. Talking about The Rock, Ron Simmons, Bradshaw. They kind of go hand in hand. Like a lot of the football players kind of go into wrestling. So you got your training. Now, this was like early 90s. Walk me through the training process.
91 is when I started. 1991, December 13th, 1991. With a gentleman called Johnny Rodz. Johnny Rodz, who has trained so many wrestlers. Myself, Big Dick Dudley, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, SD Special Delivery Jones from the WWF days. He also had a hand in helping Piper get ahead. Piper mentioned Johnny in his book and put over Johnny huge. Damian Demento, who was on the first Monday Night Raw and was with WWE for a little bit. And I think, am I missing anyone? Oh, Hugh Morris.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys. It was truly a legend, a great time back then. It really was. The business was somewhat hot. It wasn't on a down, because sometimes the wrestling business can be on an up or can be on a down. And at this point, I think it was like right in the middle of bursting out again. We were still into the Andre and Hogan era.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those stars were still going and active and alive. Some were even doing independent shows, which made the independent scene, of course, jump up, having major talent from WWF on their independent shows. I met so many great people. Hercules Hernandez, the late great Hercules Hernandez, SD Special Delivery Jones, of course, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I mean, the list goes on of so many names that I had met. And of course, I was starstruck. I was in awe and fumbling my words every time I talked to either one of them, especially Jimmy Snuka. I met him and that was like a god. It was like, holy cow, it's Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He was just as calm as can be, smoking his cigarette, having his little drink and everything. I tell Tamina all the time about that. And she says, yep, that was my dad. That was my dad. Because I know you're not lying, because he did that on a regular basis. I said, yeah. I said, there was a couple of times I saw him and I was scared to say anything to him because he was such a bigger than life star to me, and I'm sitting up there, looking at him and watching him. And, it was really a good time back then.
Definitely. ECW, that was just such an iconic promotion when wrestling was really starting to take off again, with the 90s, and eventually it spawned the Attitude Era, influenced, WWE and WCW. You started as part of the Dudleys, but it was like a big group of Dudleys. How did all that kind of come about?
Well, I wasn't there when the start of the Dudleys came, and neither was Bubba or Spike. I believe the first set of Dudleys was Snot Dudley, Dudley Dudley, and Big Dick Dudley. And then I believe Chubby Dudley was added, Sign Guy Dudley was added, and then, of course, Bubba was added. And then I came in, And then Spike came in. Spike was the last. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was eight of us. And the last surviving three were the ones that remained and went on to, bigger and better things. Not that ECW wasn't, big to us, because it was huge. It was a family. But again, when you go from an ECW level to a WWE and make it and become successful, that's truly a feat in itself. So I'm very happy, with my time in ECW. A kid, a young kid coming from, Johnny Rodz' wrestling school, and now, to ECW, but now into WWE. That was huge, man.
Yeah.
Scared to death.
At that time, tag team wrestling was starting to see a revival with yourselves and the Hardys, Edge and Christian. I mean, tables, ladders, and chairs. What was it like making that transition to WWE and kind of being a part of that revitalization of the tag team division?
Well, it was great. I had a really good time being a part of that. Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, of course, myself, and the Hardys. I mean, I don't think any of us thought that we would help put a shot in the arm of tag team wrestling the way we did. It was just an incredible time. You had six, guys that was really trying to make a difference. Yeah, six. Okay, I was doing my math.
Yeah.
And really trying to make a difference, but then wanted to reach the pinnacle of the top of the tag team ranks. And I think we did that, with the TLC matches and stuff like that. I don't know if any other team could have came in and replaced the other. I think as fate had it, it was the Dudleys, it was the Hardys and Edge and Christian that only could have made that happen. And, it made us superstars within the company because of that. So very grateful and very honored to be a part of that elite group of tag teams that was able to help change the business in terms of tag team wrestling and take it to new heights.
Oh, no doubt about that. What was it about the Attitude Era, in your opinion, that made it so hot, mainstream as it was?
Well, I think the one thing that always stands out to me is that everybody on the roster, and I hate to use this word, but from the lowest guy to the top, was over. Everybody was over. There were times when Funaki, who was considered the opening act, would come out in certain places and get just as big as a pop as The Rock and Austin. It was amazing how my coworkers at that time was so over. I mean, everybody knew us. Everybody had to be escorted to their cars, through the malls. The money was great. I mean, I can't even put into words how good of a time that was. It's almost like asking the Hogan and Andre era during 85 and 88, what it was like to be a part of that era. And again, I think everything happens for a reason. Timing is everything. And I was so glad and happy to be a part of the Attitude Era, an era that people still talk about to this day and genuinely misses it. But the only thing is, the way society is now, you can't go back to those days anymore. So many people are so sensitive. You say the wrong thing, you say boo, and they're picketing outside, and so forth and so on. Where back then it was a different time. You can get away with so much. And point in case, look at the Dudleys and ECW. Saying the things that we were able to say, back then, and not really getting in trouble for it. We definitely wasn't getting in trouble by Paul. Paul loved that type of stuff, especially, and we were the guys that didn't care with him. We wanted to go out there and shock the world, and we did that.
Yeah, you did. You and Bubba have faced so many tag teams over the years, Edge and Christian, the Hardys. But who are like some teams that you guys enjoyed working with the most that fans might not know about?
Let's go back to my era. Um, I'm definitely going to say APA because we don't really hear a lot of people mention APA when they talk about the Dudleys, Edge and Christians, and the Hardys. They were great. They taught us all so much, and a lot of it was respect too. Because if you didn't have respect, APA would kill you. They would beat the hell out of you, which was good because I think the wrestling business at that time needed that. Because the old school way of doing things, the values and how things were in this business was leaving, was gone. Because my generation that came in, thinking that, our shit didn't stink and that we were untouchable. APA made sure that we knew that, yes, we could be touched and we could get knocked out at any time, which was great. APA was one. I enjoyed La Resistance, even though they were a young team. They messed up, not so much, but when they did mess up, it was like, oof, but I enjoyed working with them. I thought, just like the Dudleys, they just had to learn, they had to get the experience. That was another one. Too Cool. Too Cool was great, had a great time with them. Grandmaster Sexy and Scotty Too Hottie, one of my favorites, especially even when the Dudleys lost, as we were about to walk out of the ring, they grab us and we start dancing with Rikishi. That was great. And this generation, I'm definitely going to say the Usos. When we came back for our second run, we, was with the New Day and the Usos. To work with the Usos back when they had the face paint on and they had the pleather shorts and all of that, that was good. But now, today, Usos blow yesterday's Usos away.
Oh, yeah.
Would have loved to work with them at this point stage of the game. I wish Bubba and I were still going strong like that. I think the Dudleys and the Usos could have great matches and stories being told and the whole nine. Those boys are young and eager and know the business. I mean, their family, and the way they are, has taught them coming up into the business, definitely made an influence and helped them so much. And I just wish that we were able to do that.
Yeah, I know. When you guys came back for that second run, a lot of fans, myself included, wanted to see one more title reign from the Dudleys. Was that something that you and Bubba were talking about? Were there plans to have you guys win the titles one more time in WWE?
There were times, as a matter of fact, the Madison Square Garden show that we did with the New Day, that was seen on MSG. It was a house show, but yet it kind of felt like TV. We were supposed to go over on a New Day that night, and it got changed. I know Bubba felt that he wanted to do it different. He wanted to have, I think, New Day get more heat. He felt that it wasn't the right time. And I know he spoke to Vince about it, and that night it got changed. So we were supposed to win the titles that night, but I'll be honest with you, how many more times? We already won it 23 times. I mean, to add 24, 25, 26? I mean, how many more times can you win a title? Our thing is, or at least my thing was, I wanted to be able to help out the younger talent, get in the ring with them and help them the way so many people have helped us that were veterans over the years. I mean, it was truly a great time.
Oh, definitely. And look at you guys. You guys went into the Hall of Fame in 2018. That had to have been an amazing feeling.
Absolutely. It really was good. It really was. To be inducted into the Hall of Fame, something that you basically, fight your whole career to be involved with,
Yeah. It's just so iconic, decades worth of matches and moments that you guys, have had over the years. Let's kind of switch gears and talk about stuff you've done outside of the business, charity work, benefits, fundraisers. What stuff have you done in your community, D-Von, that you like to share?
Well, I've done things for what we call Hope for a Single Mom. It basically women who had breast cancer diagnosed with it. Uh, they had to go through chemo and all of that. So what myself, along with other people within that organization, what we did was we would do fundraisers where it would pay for their rent, pay for their groceries, medical bills, and anything else that they had to pay for along the way while they were fighting the cancer. We would do wrestling benefit shows where all proceeds went to Hope for a Single Mom. I enjoyed it to the fullest because to be able to help women, because when they get cancer and stuff like that, they're diagnosed with it. A lot of times they can't work because going through chemo is so tough. And so, with that being said, we were able to help them to pay their bills and to do what they had to do, so they can just concentrate on getting better and not being stressed out about paying their bills.
Sure. When did you start getting involved with that?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 2013.
2013.
Yes, 2013. I met this young lady at the gym. Her sister had deep breast cancer, and they did a little something to raise money for her sister as well. And then we started talking, and next thing I know, when she mentioned it to me, I basically said, wow, my grandmother passed away from lung cancer. My grandmother was my heart. She was the fist of the family. So I remember saying to her, if there's anything I can do to help raise money, let me know. And she said, oh, that's a great idea. I probably will take you up on that offer. I said, okay. Then she came to me and we talked a little bit. And I said, well, how about if we put a benefit show on? And we did. We did 3 of them, I think, before I got called up to WWE. And by that time, I didn't have the time anymore to help promote and do things. So I mean, we've had people on the, on the shows like Kurt Angle, Matt Morgan, Scotty 2 Hotty, pretty much all of the aces and eights. With the and Bubba had made an appearance as well on there. As the immortal Hulk Hogan basically came out, and I think that was our biggest draw.
Really?
And everybody bringing in merchandise, of course, through the 80s, Thunder Lips, things like that for Hogan to sign. So it was great to see that. But Hogan sat there and he signed every single one of those autographs, even though, he was dealing with his back. We all know the back issues that Terry has had over the years due to wrestling, but he sat there and signed every single one of them. He never left. He never complained, nothing. And it was an honor to have him on my show. And again, we just went out there and really performed for the people here in Florida. And we raised money. We did a great job. I think that year we raised over $60,000. So we were able to take care of 3 moms who basically had cancer. So each year that we did it, since I started, we were taking on like 3, sometimes even 4 moms and taking care of their financial burdens, so to speak. So I was very proud and happy of that.
That's very heartwarming, and it's really cool that you had such a turnout, star-studded lineup of people. Why do you feel passionate about helping out in your community?
Why wouldn't you? I mean, you got to give back to the community somehow. They support us on a regular basis by coming to the shows, buying the merchandise, things like that. So in a time of need, it's only fitting that you help those who have, helped you become who you are today. Give back to the community. I think anyone who decides that they don't feel like they should do that I think not only they're making a big mistake, but they're doing an injustice, just for the simple fact that, you need to give back to the people that help put you where you are. And don't forget where you come from.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Never forget where you came from. And you've got a wrestling school too, and have trained so many people. Your sons are also in the business as well. Talk to me about how you got involved with the wrestling school.
Well, it was one of those things where when Bubba and I left the first time, we basically didn't like the way schools were teaching young talent. So we decided to open up our own school and do the right thing.
Ah,
It was open in 2007. Me and Bubba opened up the school, and we basically started teaching people the proper way, especially respect. Respect is huge in the wrestling business, so we have to make sure of that. Basically, we opened up. Now, Bubba left Florida, went to Connecticut, so I was left with the school down here. So I own this one down here, but we moved the school from Kissimmee, Florida, to Winter Park, Florida, which is basically literally 3 minutes away from the Performance Center. So when I was working with the WWE and NXT, I would go to NXT, and then as soon as I was done, go right down the block to the wrestling school and teach. So we're open Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from
wow.
5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
That's amazing. And your sons, are also in the business as well, your oldest ones. Tell me about how they got involved.
Just watching me over the years and wanting to do it, just like any second generation wrestler wants to be. If their fathers brought them around long enough, they get the bug, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I believe they're in AEW now. Is that right?
I know that they've done dark matches and things like that, so they frequent the AEW a lot. They're down there at their training facility in Georgia, so it's a good thing for them.
That's amazing. Maybe one day we'll see them head to WWE. I mean, I'd love to see the D-Von sons versus the Usos. That could be a dream match.
Well, I know that's one of their dream matches, but like I told the twins, I told them, I said, I'd rather you stay elsewhere, just because there's so much going on with WWE right now that people, sometimes people don't know whether they're coming or going. I mean, certain storylines are good there. They're getting right back on track again. But again, there's still, I feel, things within the organization that still needs to be worked out. And certain people don't know if Vince is back. They say he's back. Other people don't know if he is or not. I mean, I just want them to come in and have a fair shot like I did.
Yeah.
And not deal with the stupid politics and stupidness that comes along with this business.
Sure. Hopefully, through AEW, they can definitely get that fair shot and get on television. I mean, AEW's got a lot of great tag teams.
Well, they definitely feature tag teams. And again, I really didn't watch, and I still don't watch AEW as much. I try to catch it when it's on. I'll turn the channels when I'm in hotel rooms or even home. I'll leave it on and start watching. There's a lot of people in AEW that are new to the wrestling business that are stars that I really don't know about. I know about the people that left WWE, like Dean Ambrose, Rusev, people like that.
Jericho.
Yeah, of course, Jericho, Malachi Black, and there's a couple other people too, Cesaro, and Charlotte's husband.
Andrade. Yeah.
I worked with those guys as a producer and worked with them as talent as well. So I know those guys, but the Orange Cassidys and guys like that, I really don't know. And, it's a shame because when I was with WWE, you're strictly watching WWE because you don't want to skip a beat. you know,
Nah, yeah.
and get caught in a meeting not knowing what the hell's going on. So, of course, my attention will be turned towards WWE as opposed to AEW. So now I'm trying to learn who's who over there, but a lot of the autograph signings that I'm doing, I'm basically getting to meet them and getting around. Like MJF, I met him and love him. Love him. I think he's a great guy. He has a lot of respect for the wrestling business, and I hope I'm not blowing his cover because I know he's in character 24/7.
Yeah.
With me and Bubba, and even Bubba said this before I even met him. He said he's a great guy. He's very respectful and this and that. And then I met him, I believe it was in Canada, at a Comic-Con. And everything that Bubba said about him was true. Great respect for the business, great guy. He's a guy from Jersey, I think. I think he's from Jersey, and you can hear it in his voice when he talks, So I like to say one New Yorker to another, even though he's from North Jersey, but still I consider that New York. So, I was very happy to meet him and, so many other guys. I helped out a little bit, gave advice, a lot of advice to Eddie Kingston. I know guys like that, but I just wish I knew more of the younger guys that are there.
So you left WWE recently. You were a producer there. Tell me about the, transition from becoming a wrestler to a producer. Was it hard to stay away from the action?
It wasn't hard to stay away from the action, but it was hard to deal with the responsibilities that came with a producer. In other words, Vince gives you a job to go out there and to tell the talent what they have to do. When you sometimes give that order that comes from Vince to talent, with me and Bubba being in the ring, you tell us what to do, we do it. We know how to do it. But some of the new generation did not. They didn't have the experience. And so when you go out there and you tell them what Vince wants and how they do it, again, you never had to walk through things with Bubba and I. You just told us and we did it. With certain talent, you had to do that. As a producer, I found out the hard way when, I'm giving them an order from Vince to do certain things. You think that they get it and that they know what they have to do or how to do it. And sometimes they didn't.
Really?
And the hard way that you have to walk through everything with some of the talent nowadays as to get what you want. And then you have some of the other talent that just gets it. They understand it. So you have to tell them once. It's like telling me and Bubba. You tell them, hey, go out there, jump off the second platform of the arena into the ring, to the outside, ring the bell, and then walk to the back nonchalant. Me and Bubba would do that, but some talent you cannot. And you would think that it would be easy for them to know this, but it's not.
Yeah.
How to do it, which is not their fault. And it's not even the company's fault. A lot of people like to blame the company, but when you have people that are young and that are breaking into the business, if they don't have somebody to show them, how would they learn? I always felt that the WWE could have used Bubba and I to help get over the younger talent even more than what we did for the Usos and the New Day. I think that we could have did that all around. And, again, just you can still get the younger talent over without burying the veterans, or I should say the guys from yesterday. You can still get them over. Everybody can win, but you can't just bury the veterans and think that that's going to be okay or that we're going to go for that.
Right.
Do that. And a lot of times I felt, and Bubba felt, that that's what they were doing. It's weird because you would think like in Japan, the older talent is so respected. They are treated like royalty. And I do feel like here it's not done. A lot of times, unless you're the chosen one that they want to do it with, they'll do it with. But other people, nah. I felt that Bubba and I always had to fight and scratch and crawl to get the things that we got. Bubba was known as a loudmouth or what have you, but the truth is, he was just fighting for something that actually belonged to us. Whether it be the TV time, whether it be the match or how the match went. I mean, we gave ourselves and our bodies so much to get other people over.
No
so
doubt.
when it's us, why is it a bad thing for the flavor to be returned? I never got that, never understood that. I've said that on numerous occasions on podcasts, interviews, that I always felt that, you know, Bubba and I never really got our just due. We got it from the fans, but never the company. You know, never the company. I don't think WWE was, I don't know, it's weird to say, because then if you ask them, they will say they gave us everything. You know, and they did give us a lot. I'm not going to admit that, I'm not going to lie and say they didn't, but there were certain things that I felt that we could have gotten more respect on, and we didn't. You know, like for instance, I get like certain merchandise that other people had that we didn't have, but yet we were over. You know, when Bubba and I returned to WWE, it was one of the biggest pops of all time.
Yep.
You know, and people still talk about that every time, you know, we do autograph signings or what have you. But to me, it just felt like WWE never gave us that proper respect. We always had to fight for it. And at this point in time, you would never ask Ric Flair to fight. You would never ask Shawn Michaels to fight. And you would never ask The Undertaker to fight. And I'm not saying that we're in the same category as those guys, but damn, we made money for the company as well. We did well. We did good as well. But yet, overlooked. And again, they can use the excuse all they want about Bubba being a loudmouth or Bubba not playing ball right and going home. No, Bubba did the right thing for the team. Bubba actually was concerned about where we were going in direction. So I remember we said this, I think it was like a couple of months ago. He goes, now something went down. I don't remember what it was, but he said to me, he goes, now do you understand why I didn't want to resign? You know, and I went, really? Yeah. I mean, I get it now. You know, I mean, before I didn't, because I was looking at it from the money aspect of it, not so much as the respect and how we were being treated. You know, again, I knew we were coming back to help the younger talent, but not to get buried. You know, you put Mojo and Zack Ryder together at one point, and then in a dark match, you had them beat us. And you know, we were fresh coming back and this and that.
Right.
And I remember Bubba saying, "I think this is a test. It's a test to see not you, D-Von, but me, how I would react to this."
Right.
And because they went over on us in I think 6 seconds. We're the most decorated tag team in the history of this business. We've never complained about laying down for anyone. But just like Steve didn't want to work with Brock Lesnar and Vince fired him over it, you know, there was a reason why Steve didn't want to work with Brock. It wasn't because he didn't think Brock was good enough, but why give the people something on free TV when they would pay for it on pay-per-view? Right. Steve was right. It wasn't like he was doing good business. He was doing great business, but they didn't seem to think that at that time. And you know, we all know the story. Steve was sent home and this and that until him and Vince basically talked about it. And JR brought them together. And, you know, the rest is history. But I just felt that they never ever really gave me and Bubba our just due. And, you know, not so much, I don't know if royalty is the right word, but just the respect level, you know, of giving us. I just felt that we never got that. We got it from the fans, but I just never felt that we got it from, you know, the powers to be up there. And I also felt that a little bit in TNA to a certain degree, but not so much with the team, but with myself. I always felt that there was something always, I don't know, it was just something wasn't right. That's the way I felt. That's my opinion and my opinion only. I'm sure if you talk to anybody up in WWE or even TNA at the time, they will have their own story or version of it, and that's fine. But I know some of the things that I've heard about in both companies and why what was done to us or me was done, and it wasn't right. I firmly believe that even as a singles competitor, me being African American in this business, I think Tony Atlas said it best on the dark side of the ring. And forgive me for saying this, but you can't do, like he told the junkyard dog, you can't do what the white man do and think you're going to get away with it and still keep a job. I had to really bite my tongue a couple of times on certain things that were racially done. I've had somebody in the office that was high up told me they didn't like me because I was black. And this is when we first came in to WWE, and then repeated it again. But he didn't just say this to me. He said it to me in front of people. He said it in front of Bubba. This person said it in front of Paul Heyman, Tommy Dreamer, and Spike Dudley, because Paul Heyman called him out on it. And he basically said, "You're damn right I don't like D-Von because he's black, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah." And I was just like, motherfucker. So I got up, looked at him, and basically just walked out of catering. I remember Shane McMahon coming to me and saying something. He was like, "D-Von, what happened?" Because I know Bubba said something to him. And I said, "Nothing, Shane." I said, "It's all right." He goes, "No, what's the matter?" I said, "Shane, it's okay. Don't worry about it." Because I've never been one to play the race card. Never wanted to. And he goes, "If something went down, D-Von, I need to tell my dad." I said, "No, you don't." I said, "I don't want your father to know." I said, "I'll handle this on my own." I said, "Don't worry." And I did. I called this person out a couple of times and said, they were like, "Hey, D-Von, how you doing?" I said, "Why are you saying hi to me? You don't like me." "Oh, of course I do, D-Von." I was like, "No, you don't." I was like, "The only reason why you're saying hi to me is because of everybody that's standing around us," which I find ironic because you told me exactly how you felt in front of other people anyway. Needless to say, this person is no longer in power. This person is still a person that is very relevant in the business. I'm not going to say any names because there's no reason for me to say it because I'm not looking for anything. But this person knows who he is, and if this person ever sees this interview, he'll know that I'll have some unchoice words the next time I see this individual.
Well, the important thing is, D-Von, is that the fans always respect you and Bubba, and you guys were both inducted into the Hall of Fame, both WWE and TNA. You've won numerous championships. You're loved throughout the wrestling world, and I just want to say thank you for coming on my show, Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and the viewers, listeners, and I'd love to have you back on again at some point.
Absolutely. Love to come back. And again, I just want to make note that I did not tell Vince because I didn't want it to be a woe is me situation. So I kept it to myself. I'm not saying Vince McMahon didn't know about it, or maybe Shane did tell him, but probably told him D-Von is not going to say anything. He doesn't want to say anything. But I just want to make that perfectly clear that Vince did not know, to my knowledge, because I didn't want anybody to tell him. So I don't want anybody putting it out there, "Oh, Vince let the racism out." No, he didn't know. And I didn't want him to know.
I got you totally. Where can people find you on social media? Do you have any events you want to plug or promote?
Absolutely. You can find me at Testify D-Von on Instagram, Testify D-Von on Twitter. All my appearances you can see online on Instagram and Twitter, because I put every appearance I do, I put it up there. Check it out and sign autographs, take pictures, and kiss babies. Running for president, running for mayor.
All right. Thank you again, D-Von.
Thank you, my friend. Hope to be on your show soon.
Yeah, for sure. Take care.
Take care, man.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.